So hello, happy, what day is it, guys? I don't know. Happy Wednesday. Whenever there is a holiday or a day off or anything from the abnormal from the schedule, it's like you forget what day it is. But today is Wednesday. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this today, so I'm sorry I didn't give you as much notice as I normally would. My computer was in the shop this morning, it was a pseudo planned thing, and I'm gonna tag someone here who said they wanted to see this video. I might have to tag them afterwards. But anyway, I'm going to, so my computer was in the shop this morning. That little fan that keeps your laptop from exploding from heat was not working. So I had to take it to the shop, and they thought it might take most of the day, and it was only like a couple hours. So yippee. So I was able to still come live today. So we are going to be talking about how to adapt your lesson or your session plan for a kiddo who has special needs. So this was a request from Cindy. So thanks, Cindy, for asking for how we could make some adaptations for kids. And I think this is a really important topic. I am a grandmother of a kiddo with special needs, so I always appreciate it when people are being mindful of the fact that having different needs doesn't mean you don't get your needs met. So I appreciate that. I am going to talk about one of the resources that I have in the school-based session planner. I'm actually going to show you guys two of those resources. Remember, these are free resources that I compiled into this monster spreadsheet. If you are a member of the school-based, the school social worker and mental health providers group, you have access to a special discount code as being a member of this group. So if you check in the units tab under school-based session planner, if you wanted to purchase that and maybe miss the pre-sale or the Labor Day sale, you can definitely use that code all the time because you are a member of this group. So I'll make sure I include the link if you want to get that, but I will also include the link to these particular resources in this post. So I'm going to talk about how to make some adaptations, why it's important to make some adaptations. And if you have questions, I'm recording this on Zoom, but I am checking the comments. So if you have questions, feel free to chime in and I will do my best to answer them. So when we're talking about adaptation, I think it's important to remember that no matter what the student's disability is or their level of need, you always want to make sure that you're still remembering the 3 Ps. Remember, we talked about the 3 Ps a few weeks back. That's number one, what is the problem, right? So what is exactly going wrong? And as much as possible, specifically when you're talking about motivating kids and making sure they have the right motivation for your session, you want to conceptualize this problem from their perspective, right? So we might say that they're having lots of peer conflicts. They may feel like they don't have enough friends, right? So you want to conceptualize this problem from their perspective. So that's really important. Before you adapt anything, you got to make sure you got the right problem in mind. So they're not going to get anything out of the session if you're trying to work on a problem that's not connecting, okay? The second thing is, what is the promise that you can hold on to, that you can anchor them to? So if you want them to be motivated, you want them to be engaged, you want them to be participating, make sure that you have a promise that you're making to them that will help them connect with what you're asking them to do. So it might be as simple as having a conversation like, I know you told me you wanted to go out for basketball this year, and you can't go out for basketball as long as you have these incomplete assignments. So I want to help you get to the place where your assignments are all turned in on time so that you can go out for basketball. Is basketball a therapeutic intervention? Not necessarily, but we can use it to get them engaged, okay? So make sure that you've identified a problem, conceptualized it from their perspective, and then created a promise that will connect them and make them excited about the lesson, okay? And then obviously the program, that's the resource, that's the goal, that's the worksheet, that's the activity, that's whatever you're gonna be doing to help them get to the promise, okay? So you gotta make sure you're doing those 3 Ps. When we're talking about adaptation, there's 2 kinds of adaptations that we would consider for a kiddo with special needs, and I'm gonna break those down for you. The first kind is a modification, Okay, so modification is that I'm changing what I'm doing based upon your developmental disability or your needs specifically. Okay, so I'm actually changing what is being done. So an example of that is I'm giving you fewer questions, right? So if you have a test, I might ask you to get through fewer questions, right? If I'm going to give you an assignment, I might give you more prompts to help you get to the answer. So I might give you some additional support on that. Um, I might be making adjustments to what's actually in the lesson. So I might be, maybe I would expect that a kid could get through 45 minutes of a session. So I might have 45 minutes worth of activity. Well, maybe I know that this kid cannot handle 45 minutes. And so I'm actually going to be doing maybe 30 minutes. So a modification is I'm changing what is being done. The accommodation is I'm changing how it's being done. So for example, I might be giving them extra breaks. I might be changing the font or the print on a worksheet. So you have access to all if you got the school-based session planner, you got access to all those links to free worksheets. You might take that worksheet and make it into something that has less words. So maybe I'm using pictures instead of words, but I'm covering the same kind of information. I might be changing it from, just using a worksheet to something that's have an assistive technology, right? So maybe I have a kiddo who has some physical disabilities, and rather than expecting him to color, I'm using an iPad to put that worksheet into a checkbox format that they can use their finger to just kind of poke on. So accommodations means I'm changing how something is being done. You can do an accommodation and a modification at the same time, right? So I might decide I want to use this worksheet, but I'm going to expect that rather than us be able to get through the entire worksheet in our session, that we can only get through a portion of this worksheet. And I'm going to make sure that this worksheet has less words. So I'm going to redo this worksheet so that it's more pictures, right? So that is one of, those are ways that you can adapt a lesson, okay? Now, when you're adapting a lesson, you want to be mindful of a couple of things. The first thing you've got to be mindful of is the age and stage of development of the kiddo. When in doubt, don't go for the age, go for the stage. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. So on the school-based session planner, I have lesson plans and worksheets and resources, and I have outlined whether this is like elementary, early elementary, middle, tween, teen, all those different age groups. A lot of times when you go on Teachers Pay Teacher, you might see it says like what grade level. I always go with the lowest grade level possible. Here's why. The last thing you want to do is have a kid be triggered because of their academic challenges in an emotional session, okay? You don't want them focused on or fixated on the fact that they are struggling to read. You don't ever want to have them miss the comprehension of the emotional goal of the session because you use some words that are beyond their understanding. You don't want to trigger them to be anxious or embarrassed or ashamed. So here's my tip. I will use a younger kid worksheet, and I will kind of frame it like this, like, oh my gosh, I couldn't find the perfect worksheet, so please don't laugh at me, but this is kind of a little kid worksheet. So instead of me getting a worksheet that's like, I couldn't find one that was really for your age group. So this is a little like babyish, but I think it really covers the things that we want to cover. So please stick with me. I'm not going to make you color, but just kind of stick with me, right? You give the kid the out. So if you know that they are maybe developmentally delayed or academically delayed, maybe they got a specific learning disability and they're struggling with their comprehension or their reading, don't make it harder for them. Go with the worksheet that's a little bit younger, frame it as if this was your fault, take the pressure on you, and then that allows them to really be invested in the worksheet without having to have the pressure of you know, making sure that they're reading everything perfectly, right? So whenever possible, go with the stage, not the age. This is also important if you have a kiddo who has maybe some asynchronous development, maybe there's some trauma in their background. They may be super duper street smart. You could leave them in the middle of their neighborhood and they can figure out how to eat and live and function just fine, but maybe emotionally they're 8, right? So make sure when you're paying attention to the problem and the goal that you focus on the stage of development and not just the age, right? So if you have that school-based session planner, you might be working with the teen. Don't discount those things that say elementary or early elementary, right? Always frame it as in, hey, this worksheet is super young, but it really has some good stuff in it. But definitely be willing to use that because that will allow them to not have that extra pressure of trying to, you know, do the academic piece, okay? And then last, always be mindful of that window of tolerance. The window of tolerance is the perfect space where kids can truly understand, process, learn, grow, and develop. Okay. The window of tolerance is in between a kid who's like understimulated and overstimulated. And each kid's window of tolerance is unique to them. So you got to get used to whatever that kid's window of tolerance. And understand that sometimes based upon their own needs, the window of tolerance may change, right? So maybe if you're doing something that's academic, their window of tolerance is only 20 or 30 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're never going to go past 20 or 30 minutes of writing out or journaling or anything like that. Maybe when it's something physical, maybe they have a physical disability. They've only got about 15 minutes of fine motor skills, right? So you're not going to have them color an entire worksheet. So you want to make sure that you are looking at what is their window of tolerance. Also know that sometimes it's perfectly appropriate to have some time at the beginning of the session where you're helping to get them a little bit more engaged and excited to get them into the window of tolerance, but also leave room at the end of that session to get them to, you know, back calm down so that they can unwind. So look for what are some of those activities that the kiddo likes to do. If they have, maybe they have a kiddo with autism and you need to make sure they've got some sensory time, right? So have those sensory items there. I'm going to show you a quick one of the resources in the school-based session planner, and I'll kind of show you what that might look like. Okay, so let me do a screen share here. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, so this is a lesson, and like I said, I will make sure that I include this link. So this is a lesson about body language and tone of voice, and this was designed for a 4th grade person. It includes a couple of suggestions. So number 1, it has this for the birds, like Angry Birds, or maybe it's not Angry Birds, for the birds clip about thinking before you speak. This is obviously very picture friendly, very engaging. It's a relatively quick video. But again, this is a little bit on the young side. I still might use this even for a kiddo who's like in middle school or a little bit older, okay? And the goal of this is you're asking the right questions. So let's say here it says at the beginning, what were the little birds thinking and feeling about the big bird, right? So the prompt, the additional prompt, if I have a kiddo who's maybe got some language delays, I might be prompting them with what type of words, or I might show them a picture that goes along with that particular feeling, right? So maybe I'm going to show them a face that looks angry so that that can prompt them to say, oh, they were angry, right? So that's kind of how you add that kind of assistive technology in there, okay? So then there's some additional questions down here. We don't know what words they were saying in the video, so how do we know all those things about what they were thinking and feeling, right? And so the goal here is to say body language and tone of voice, right? So you might have to give them some prompts that say body language and tone of voice. Okay, there's some other options down here that go along with this video. So there's some role play, right? I might ask them to do, if there's a kiddo who needs maybe some gross motor movement, I might have them stand up and do their role play and move around. that would give them a little bit more. For a kiddo who maybe needs some fine motor skills, I might have them, the beginning of the session, I might have them creating their little stick people out of popsicle sticks, or I might have them creating somebody out of Play-Doh or something like that, and have the two Play-Doh figures doing the role play, right? So that might be an option. And then down here, there's also some cards. So using something, in a tactile format, that is definitely something that you can make into that fine motor skills. You might also put on the back side of this, you might put some pictures that go along with the way the person is feeling, so that they have the option of looking, like if they're reading the question and they don't know, on the back might be a picture, and that's their clue, right? So those are all ways that you can adapt a lesson plan, a session plan, a technique to accommodate for a kiddo who has some special needs. If you're watching this and you have some other suggestions, please chime in. As I mentioned, I'm going to try and do a resource remix at least once a week to share with you guys how to use some of these free resources that are available online, some of which I have included in the school-based session planner. If you're interested in getting your copy, make sure that you use the promo code that we have that is special for the people in the school-based social worker and mental health provider group. And if you have other questions, like I said, this was a suggestion from Cindy. So if you have other questions or strategies or ideas of things that you would love for me to cover, feel free to either shoot me a message or leave a comment. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.